Coaches Show. I'm your host, Tarika Foster-Razzie, and I have a pleasure to be joined by Coach Stephanie White, Assistant Coach Breon January. My mic is telling me already that I am talking way too much and need to speed it up, but hopefully we'll be able to make it through just fine. I'm excited to be here. I feel like it's been forever, right? It's been like a month since our last show. 11-day road trip, 2-2 on that road trip. Just, my goodness, when you are thinking about adaptability and you're thinking about game situations and you're thinking about managing minutes and everything, just kind of talk about what a long road trip, 11 days, just kind of talk about what a long road trip is like really like.
It's tough, you know.
We lost me there. We're back. It's tough to go on the road for that long. You know, anytime you're traveling in this league, it's hard. Playing on the road is tough to begin with, but being on the road and having to try to find times to practice and get work in, find time for recovery, traveling alone, and just with inflammation and everything else is tough. And being able to adapt is important. You know, I think from a coach's perspective, we just try to control the things that we can control, manage our bodies in the best way that we can, and really challenging our team to focus a lot more mentally when it goes over film work and game plans, more so than physically. You know, we were fortunate we had a couple of days in Seattle that we were able to get some practice in, which was good for us. And you know, changing time zones and all that stuff, getting your body ready. But that's what these women do. You know, they're used to that with playing in the league and playing overseas and really having to just be ready to go. And so we're happy to be back in the friendly confines of home. So we're looking forward to playing a home game. Yeah, let's talk about that for a quick second, because I don't think people realize that it's not just going on the road. It's the time travel. It is the change of time zones. It is the inability to practice from time to time. And then it's also having to manage rotations when you have things like, unfortunately, when you have DB who, you know, gets injured early, or when you have a scary situation like Legionnaire, you're not sure what that will be. You know, just kind of share, what is it like trying to manage those rotations in those moments? You know, that's the tough part, and it's not just rotations, it's production, yeah. Right? It's making sure that we can have players that are put in positions to be successful and to help our team succeed. And you know, when you lose a player like DB who does so much for us, but particularly scoring the basketball, you know, then you have to ask everybody else to give a little more. I mean, much like when we discussed Breezy, you're not going to replace that production with one person. Everybody else has to be able to step up, and that's where that consistency, you know, and being able to not necessarily play outside yourself, but give just a little bit more is so important. You know, I felt like we didn't have a lot of time to adjust to that with DB in particular. Didn't have a lot of time in that Phoenix game. I thought, you know, we did a better job. She was on the floor a little bit more in Dallas. But the fact that we were right where we were without her production, I felt like our team adjusted a little bit more, and we're right there ready to go. Yeah, and this is kind of for both of you, because I know you bring the player perspective, is when you're trying to prioritize, you know, have to prioritize well-being and recovery. Players never want to sit out. Like, no matter how they're feeling, what they're doing, they never want to stop playing, they never want to sit out. How do you as a coach have to tell them how to get them to prioritize rest and recovery and know you can't play right now?
Well, we have a staff full of players.
Yeah.
And we know how important that is, and I think from time to time we have to help them see the big picture, yeah. Right? It's a long season. It's a grind, you know, we have to be peaking at the right time, and sometimes it's taking that rest. That rest is doing more for you than getting up before doing the extra things, and, you know, that's just going to be beneficial for the team. But, you know, those are the conversations we have, and our team's really bought in, and, you know, it's been pretty easy managing those things thus far.
Yeah, Bree, you have had one of the most successful careers playing in the NBA, the WNBA. I think your on-court experiences have just really shaped, you know, your coaching philosophy. Can you share a little bit with how what you've been able to do as a player has shaped what you teach, and, you know, how you've been able to connect with the Sun here?
Well, playing 14 years in this league, I've been able to play for some of the best coaches, I mean, including staff, but, you know, just seeing the difference in their approaches, their philosophies, the way they, you know, the way they manage teams. You know, and just kind of go about their day to day, and how they conduct themselves around the team. I've learned a lot, and I just kind of soaked it all up. And also just playing with some of the best who have ever stepped on the floor in the W. You know, from Tamika Catchings to Diana Taurasi to Sue Bird. You know, I've been the young ones, Brianna Stewart. You know, I've been able to be on the court with them, and just to see their approach as well. And so all of that is just the knowledge that I've been able to gain through my career, and that I'm hoping to give to our team and help them be as successful as they can be.
When I think of you, one of the first things that comes to my mind is defense. I'm like, listen, I already know Connecticut about to shut it down defensively because Bree's on the bench now, and that's just, it just kind of is what it is, right? Just like, what have you been able to, I guess, convey from a defensive standpoint as a coach of some of the things that worked well for you as a player?
Oh, I mean, the fortunate thing for me is I've come into a team who really is bought in on the defensive end. They've always been tough, you know, and
You might have been here for some of that. Okay.
I was here for a little bit of that, but hopefully my time here rubbed off on some of the players. But having players that are bought in on the defensive end makes my job a lot easier when we are talking about defense. But you know, we're challenging them every day to continue to get better, to stretch themselves, to put forth the effort, because games are won. You have to show up on both ends, and you know, if we're gonna achieve the goals that we've set for ourselves, we really do need to step up on the defensive end and, you know, show up like we know we can. And when we do, and we're active and we communicate and we work together, I mean, we're putting ourselves in a very good position.
I love that. One thing that I have loved about that part, and just, we've talked about this before, is just when you have a staff that's full of former players, there's a different connection. There's a different level of expectation. You know, like my mom would say this, one day when you get my age, you're going to understand where I'm coming from, right? And so it's a little different to kind of pull the wool over someone's eyes who hasn't been able to do it. You know, what has that from, you know, and I've heard from you before on it, but just from your time in coaching, what does it mean to kind of have a staff where everyone kind of understands that part of the game?
I mean, there's a lot that goes into this, you know, from the day to day and just what goes into all of it. And for us to have been able to experience that, I mean, that's a connection we share with the players, and they know we've been there. And for me, I'm not far removed and have played with most of the players on this team. And I think me making this transition, it helped in my communication styles with them and knowing how to motivate them and how to communicate with them to get the most out of them. So, you know, understanding what they're going through helps us communicate with them and get them to where we need them to be.
Steph, you gotta be a proud parent right now, Steph.
Absolutely, 100%. See, we go straight from player speak to coach speak.
Right? I mean, having Coach Bree and seeing where she is now at this level in her career, just, you know, what do you think, how do you think she's grown so far? We're gonna put her on the spot again.
You know, I think the biggest thing, just from the time that I was coaching Bree, even throughout the time that I was coaching Bree, in the area of growth in terms of just her communication, her leadership style, you know, understanding how to motivate her teammates, understanding how to communicate to get the most out of her teammates. You know, that's an area that she's always continued to grow in. And then as a coach, you have to do it differently. You know, sometimes we have to think outside the box in terms of semantics, right? Sometimes we have to reframe the narrative. Sometimes we just got to trick them, right? I mean, there's a lot of different things that go into it. But you know, Bree has always had a coaching mentality. She's always had a coach's mind, and I've been most proud of just her growth in terms of leadership, communication, and really learning how to push the buttons, because sometimes it's a guessing game, right? And sometimes it's hard because you don't always know, and then you just have to trust your gut and go with your instincts.
Yeah, speaking of, you know, I know when you're playing and when you're in the middle of the game, you don't always get to hear what's being said on the broadcast or what the analysts are saying, but there were plenty of times, and I know I personally were on a broadcast and I'm like, Bree January, she's like the coach on the floor. And so are there, I know I'm trying to make you blush, but are there moments that maybe you can share where something that you've learned from Steph has really like played a role in your approach, or yeah, we're gonna put her on the spot.
I know. I mean, we could be here for a while because I mean, you know, when I was thinking about being a coach, like, I knew I wanted to coach with her.
Right.
And because I knew that I had so much to learn from her. I learned so much from her from playing under her and the way she built relationships with her players and knew how to motivate them and just continued to learn. I mean, she continued to learn as a coach, you know, and I think that makes the great ones, you know, they are continuing to grow themselves.
Yeah.
And help the people around them grow. And so I just really always have admired that and her basketball mind, and just she's a phenomenal person at the end of the day. And those are the people I want to surround myself with. So I mean,
I love that. We're having a moment, y'all.
I know.
We're having a real
And they
moment
can't
right
hear it
now.
because the mic's
I know,
right.
you guys
Hear it.
you're missing it. We're having a real
Pass
moment.
that one around.
I do think though, and we'll do that. I got you.
Yeah, we might have to pass that one
around. But I think an important part to having the ability to find camaraderie in the locker room as players is being able to have that camaraderie as coaches. And you know, we kind of just touched on it briefly, but just as a collective staff, like what is it like working with each other, being around each other? How do we play off each other from the scouting to, you know, like each, you know, you mentioned momentarily that everybody has a role, right? And we don't always get to see that. Every coaching staff doesn't necessarily get along. Some people are just, we're here for the job, we're gonna do what we need to do, and then we're gonna move forward. But it doesn't feel that way with the Connecticut staff. And you guys look amazing. I'm always jealous when you come out with the hoodies and then the shirts, and I'm like, dang.
I'll start and then I'll give it to Bree. You know, I think you know, one of the important things for me, because the job is hard.
Yeah.
You know, the job is hard, and the league is hard, and you know, we're all this is what we love to do, but it doesn't come without its sacrifices. And you know, no matter what, you want to be surrounded by people that you love, that you respect, that aren't afraid to challenge you, and aren't afraid to speak their mind, and that can help you grow and get better as a staff. And you know, so for me, you know, putting a group together, we can't put all the same person on the staff. We're not going to be any good for ourselves. We're not going to be any good for our team. But making sure that we put a group together that can collectively get the most out of one another, that can collectively get the most out of our team, and that we're going to enjoy being around. You know, that are going to know, like. You know, like for me specifically, you know, now my kids are back in school. I'm being my feelings a lot, right? So and they know that, and I can be open with them about that. But also that we challenge each other to be better every day. And so for us, you know, I think I'm just thankful to have this group and to be around this group, and that there's no ego. Like we just really want to be better for ourselves. We really want to help our team be the best that we can possibly be and compete for a championship. So I'm really just so thankful for the group that we have, and the fact that we can be our best, and on the days when we don't have it, somebody's there to lift us up.
I mean, you pretty much said it all. I really don't have much to add. I mean, I can't emphasize enough. It is challenging, you know, and throughout the course of the season, there's ups and downs, and being around good people helps you navigate through those things and keep perspective and continue to grow and stretch and be supported throughout the journey. And I think that's one of the major things. And I mean, we are all very different, but we are all good humans, you know. And I think that's the thing with our group is, like she said, we are very in tune that way. And I appreciate through all the ups and downs, like we manage, I feel like we manage stress similarly, you know, never too high, never too low. We continue to move forward and are very solution based if we are approached with any, you know, challenges in that way. So I very much appreciated that and love our staff personally.
Love that.
And
love
it's all my
that.
transition. Like I couldn't have asked for a better staff to be around in this transition from player to coach, and yeah.
Yeah, I was actually just getting ready to mention that thing. Like, it's gotta feel good when you're trying to make this transition in coaching to kind of have that kind of camaraderie and have people that you can like really rely on and like help you to get there, right?
100%.
Okay, so I will stop embarrassing you both, and we'll We'll talk more about the players at this point, but fans, we are absolutely taking questions. So, I'd like to sprinkle in a couple of fan questions before we get to the end. So here's one that I have. What's your favorite moment from the season so far?
Oh, wow.
Sheesh.
That's a good question. Oh, let's just
Toss this one, move this one around. That's a good question. I'm not exactly sure. Favorite moment. Gosh. I don't know that we've really taken the time to enjoy anything yet, right? I think the thing about coaching is that you're so focused on the next that you don't really have an opportunity to reflect. You know, when you think back on, you know, DB scoring 40 and AT's triple doubles and, you know, knocking down big shots in big moments to win ball games. You know, certainly the bounce back we had against Vegas. The resilience of this group, I think it's important, and also the resilience of this group to bounce back after Breezy's injury. I mean, I think all of those are character building moments for our group and important moments as we continue to look forward, you know, towards the playoffs. I hope my favorite moment is celebrating with the trophy at the end of the year.
I know that's right. How about you, Bree?
No, I mean, yeah. They agree. I agree. All the things. The only thing I'd add is just seeing the growth. You know, I think that's been one of my favorite parts this season. Is just seeing our young ones, seeing Ty, seeing Olivia, like seeing all of them. Just Dejanay continue to just grow throughout the course of the season. I mean, we've been faced with adversity, and they've stepped up and are continuing to, you know, get better game by game. And I'm excited to see what they can continue to do.
Well, since you mentioned Dejanay, since you brought her up, we might as well just get back here on talking about Dejanay, who is definitely my 6th Player of the Year candidate.
She's just been incredible this entire season.
See, I tried to make it work. It wouldn't work for me. But she's been incredible this season. 11 double-digit performances off the bench. Just how has her consistency impacted this team? I think we all can see it. I think it's different when it comes from you guys. So, like, how do you view the impact that she had and that she's had this season?
I think first and foremost, it's important to understand how much the energy affects our team. You know, having her energy off the bench, you know, her ability to change the landscape of the game because of that. Certainly it starts on the defensive end of the floor, her aggressiveness, you know, her toughness. And then I feel like offensively, she's just continued to get better. You know, her ability to stretch the floor now from the three-point line, her aggressiveness to the rim. You know, there are games where, you know, her double-digit production in terms of points coming off the bench is huge. And she's also a tremendous rebounding guard. And that's something that we need, and we need consistently. And so she can change the landscape of a game for us. You know, and I expect Nay, like, she's improved so much throughout this year, as Bree has mentioned. And I expect, you know, now that she's getting healthy and can hopefully have a healthy off season, for it to just continue to expand and her growth to just, I mean, I think next year is a really good year and pivotal year for her. I think you're going to see a different player.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Same.
6th Player of the Year.
Exactly.
6th Player of the Year.
Yes.
I'll let you guys know that I'm a voter. So,
There's one.
I'm just, you know,
Get your vote in, girl. Get your vote in.
She's got at least one. She also, you know, has a reputation for just disrupting the game when she comes in, which we absolutely love. I've always called her energy just because on the defensive end, she's one who I know can certainly turn her defense into offense. When you're game planning, is that the kind of thing that you're taking into consideration when you're doing rotations, when you're deciding when to bring her in, is how disruptive she can be on that side of the ball?
Absolutely, it's so important. You know, disruptive on the defensive end, you know, energy from a rebounding standpoint, running the floor. You know, it's so important. You know, there are oftentimes if we start the game slow and I'm like, okay, we got a sub, like we got to get somebody in that's going to give us energy, and we know that day in and day out, she's going to do that, and it's critical for us.
Yeah.
I think it's so funny, right? I know you guys probably aren't as big on social media, but I was on Twitter today. Are we still calling it Twitter? I don't know the name of the thing anymore. But I was on the X, yes. It reminds me of print. Prince was like the
Turn
symbol.
it
So that's where we are now. So I was on X and I came across a tweet, or I don't even know what we call it, a post. And it was a graphic of Brianna Stewart and a graphic of Asia Wilson. And it was like MVP race. So I reposted it because I love chaos. And I was like, Alyssa Thomas would like a word.
Because Alyssa
Thomas would like a word, okay? As much as she's done this season, historic feats that she's accomplished, back-to-back triple doubles, not once but twice. She's just continuing to defy all the odds that are stacked against her, which we love. But from a coach's perspective, like how do these milestones influence just the way that this team continues to play?
You know, I don't know if you think about it from a playing perspective, the milestones don't necessarily influence it. How she goes about them influences it, and it's because, you know, she's as competitive as anyone I've ever met. You know, she can put us on her shoulders and do whatever it is that we need, you know, any game to put ourselves in positions to win ball games. Now, you know, I've said this numerous times, she's the most underrated superstar, you know, in our league. She's putting up these numbers, and just because the points per game aren't where, you know, other candidates are, but everything else is first or second in the league. You know, I think that those things have to be taken into consideration. When I think about, you know, most outstanding players, I think about players like, if you take them off of their team, what happens? Right? What happens? You know, she's critical for us, not just in terms of what she puts up from a numbers perspective, but defensively. I mean, her ability to play on any player, the energy that she brings, the accountability that she holds her team to, you know, on the defensive end of the floor. I mean, you take Alyssa Thomas off of our team and we're just a different ball club. And, you know, I don't think that, I know she doesn't get the credit that she deserves nationally. That doesn't really matter to her. But if you look at all the numbers collectively and not just points per game, she should be in much more of the conversation that's been had nationally, for sure.
Thought to that. You know, I mean, if you just look at the stats, and I mean, I know they look at points, but the way she fills up a stat sheet, it shows how much she impacts the rest of her team, how she puts them in positions to be successful. And I think that's huge. You know, like you said, if you take her off the floor, like, you know, you'll see the impact that she has, and that it's just incredible. You know, consistently. You know, night in, night out, you know what you're gonna get, and it's a force. You know, teams are, you know, they know that she's the engine of this team, and you know she puts us on her back, like Coach said, and it's been fun. It's been fun to watch, and hopefully she gets the recognition that she deserves.
And you see, we can't take her off the floor.
You can't. There's no way. First of all, she's not having it. Second of all, she's like I'm over there reading lips on the sideline. I'm like, oh, AT is not coming off today. But Brie, I want to toss this one to you though, because she, you know, recently, I'm going off her words, Coach, I promise. But just kind of give your perspective on the rarity of triple doubles. Like it takes, and we hear after everyone that she says, I can't do it alone. But like, can you just share some perspective on why it's so incredible? Because it's so rare.
I mean, it's so rare, you know, and it's so rare because of her understanding of the game, the understanding of her teammates, the understanding of what we need night in and night out, you know, and she brings it, and it takes an unbelievable amount of focus, energy, effort to do that, and like I said, to do that consistently, you know, her competitiveness is unmatched, and I mean, I would rank her up there with Tamika Catchings, who put us on her back multiple times when I was in Indy, but it's amazing to watch what she does every night, and like you said, it's just so rare.
Yeah. I would say, I know that she's
on Friday, and my stat may be a little bit off, but I believe she could potentially have a third 20-point game, which is something that she has not done yet in her career, which is have 3 straight 20-point plus games. So here it is again, where we won't be saying something else amazing that Alyssa Thomas is doing. Like it's literally, I think fans have to know not to take it for granted because she does it so often and she's doing it at such a great level that I think people may think that it's normal. And I'm like, it's not, this is not normal.
I mean, I think Steph's joked about this before, but I swear every other game we have another milestone, whether it's between DB or AT, or, you know, and you can't take it for granted because I mean they just do it on the regular, and and this is not normal, and we are witnessing greatness right now.
Yes.
So yeah,
I love it. I love it.
All right, so we are about 3 and some change, maybe 4 weeks away from the postseason. Prep is different. Approaching the final stretch of the season is different when you're looking for a deep playoff run. Just kind of what are some ways that you have to kind of keep the team physically and mentally prepared for this?
I think the biggest thing is just, for us to continue to harp on the details. You know, certainly when you think about the playoffs and you think about a series, efficiency is king. You know, you've got to be efficient. You've got to be able to make tweaks. And you've got to be able to make changes and do it mentally. You know, you might not be able to rep some of the changes that you want to make, but you've got to be disciplined enough and have an awareness enough on the floor to be able to do it without repping. And all those things matter. And, you know, every game, every possession, everything matters. And great teams and championship teams, they take advantage of it if you make mistakes. And so you really got to be playing the best basketball, the most cohesive basketball of the season. And so we talk about that consistently. You know, we really make sure that we're focusing on some of the areas that we might have had some slippage. But the biggest thing is making sure that you know we're physically as well as mentally ready for a playoff push.
And from a coach's perspective, in terms of what you all have to do in terms of scouting and things like that, how does that change from, you know, the regular season where maybe you've seen this team, and I think we all say that teams are very different from the regular season to the postseason, but from a prepping for other teams perspective, how does that change for you from the postseason to the regular season?
go ahead. You've been here. You've coached.
Well, I think that you've played teams 3 or 4 times. You certainly don't expect teams to continue to do the same things that they've done when it comes from a game planning perspective or what they're looking for. So it is the ultimate chess match. It's trying to figure out what's the next move. Where are the areas that they've had an advantage the 3 or 4 times that we've played them? How can we minimize that? Who do we have to take a chance on? Who do we have to make beat us? What positions on the floor do we have to have them taking shots from that we have to make them earn it? So it's individual and collective in that realm. We have to quote unquote play the percentages, and we've got to make them uncomfortable. And then in those situations, if teams beat you, they deserve to win. And also we have to find where are our advantages, and we have to be able to recognize them. In live action, as much as we prep for it, as much as we've seen it in however many games, it might not be there in that 5th game, or that 6th game, or in the series. It might not be there in the 1st quarter, and it might show itself in the 4th quarter. Can we recognize that? How do we recognize that? So really growing in the mental side of the game, and whichever team is able to keep their body going and slow their minds down, those are usually the ones that you see that win ball games.
Anything to add?
Oh, that was perfect.
She's like, I ain't coaching the playoffs yet. I'm waiting. So we have a couple more fan questions. This question is, these are X's and O questions. The fans is paying attention out here. They bringing the X's and O's questions. Okay. Do you think it's time to change up the guard rotation? That's a good question. I don't know. We talk about it all the time. We talk about it every day as a staff. I think the biggest thing for us is how does it impact the whole? Whether it's the start, whether it's the 2nd quarter, whether it's the 3rd quarter, whether it's the 4th quarter. We track efficiency numbers per quarter. We track efficiency through matchups. We track all of those things.
And so when we're making decisions, it's not as simple as, okay, well, we need this right now. How does it impact our whole game? And how does it impact players who are in certain positions? I mean, some of the things that you learn, if you're a parent, you understand this, and if you're a coach, you understand this. Some players are better when they start mentally. Some players are better when they come off the bench mentally. We got to figure out, what's best for our team. But that's the toughest thing about coaching, is trying to figure that out, and having conversations about that day in and day out. Hey, should we change the lineup? Should we look at this person in a different situation or a different position, a different matchup? All of those things. And then the thing that we ask for as coaches is consistency. So when we know what we're going to get every day, it makes making those tweaks or those changes a little bit easier. When we don't, it makes it a little bit harder.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to ask.
We got some claps here. Awesome.
That was good.
All right. Another question from our fans. Is Bernadette expected to be a factor before the playoffs, or are we specifically looking for her help in the playoffs to play against the super teams? They use super teams in quotes, so the journalist in me is making sure I quote that.
I mean, if you watched a little bit of our Phoenix game, she came out and gave us great minutes, showed a little bit of what she can do and what she can add to our team. Not only is she rim protector, but she can step outside, hit the three, finish around the rim. So we're excited to get her in the flow right now. So she's a great addition, and slowly picking up our offense and getting into the mix, and you're just going to continue to grow her team. But yeah, before playoffs.
For sure. All right, I'm going to let you keep the mic. I'm just going to project because I've got a big mouth. And we're going to play a little game. Oh, yeah, curveball.
See, before Bree asked me, are you going to throw a curveball? I said, no. I'm like, curveball. So I'm just going to throw out like 3, maybe 4 random things, and then you tell me who's the first person on the team that you think of when you think of that thing, okay? Really quick, really easy, really fun though, okay? So first, who's the funniest on the team?
Nay, even though I'm not sure she's trying to be.
That's a fact.
It's Nay? It's Nay? Okay.
She doesn't even try.
Who's the social butterfly? Who's the one that's going to be like, let's all get together and like do something? Who's the social butterfly?
I don't know about saying let's get together and do something, but I still feel like Nay's the social butterfly.
You're always going to be hearing her. She's always around the team, talking to everybody.
Okay.
Who has the best taste in music? Whose playlist is always fire?
I'm gonna go with Tiffany.
Okay.
Tiffany. I do a sound check before every game. She's very chill, low vibes. It's good.
It's Tiff.
I don't know about Tiff.
All right, this definitely is going to be a hard one. Fashion. Tunnel fits. Who's coming to the game and you like, that outfit is crazy. I feel like I have some in my head, but I'm not exactly sure. Like, I got a few.
Tunnel fits.
Who's got the best fashion?
We got a few.
We
It
got a
kind of
few.
depends on your taste, but I think Tip. I mean, Tip is always bringing it. Yeah, she is always bringing it.
I mean, Tip, T, Nay, Liv, Beck. Our team does it. Our tunnel fits, top notch. Good job, girls. We do it.
See, I don't get it.
On and off the court.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, there you go. The whole team is full of drip. Shout out to Jeremy, who's sitting up here taking the photos beforehand. We love you. Shout out to Kayla, who always has the flyest thing to say on social to make the fits right. It is what it is. Well, guys, it's been fun. It's been a great show. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us for a little bit today. And continue to follow, watch the show. Thank you, fans, for coming. It's been great to have you. I'm glad you guys can hear us now.